organization. We're trying to change our organization to be more effective in the world and, carry out the mission of PUP. And we went through a long period of working on our mission statement and how we plan to operate into the future. And members are a really important part of that change effort. And as members, we play different roles. You can be more active or less active. Of course, if you're a board member, it's a very active role. But I guess what I want to say to all members is that PUP is not trying to bring you in to change who you are or to, give you a set of beliefs that you need to believe. What it's trying to do more is trying to enlarge the community of PUP and the diversity of PUP. And to succeed there, we need all of you to bring yourself to PUP, your special knowledge, your special talents, your special ability to make contributions to PUP and the PUP mission. So what we want to do is celebrate who you are and those special things that you bring to PUP. And so this task today is mostly helping you learn how to engage with PUP in a more effective way. And also I'll give an award to anybody who actually read all the pre-work that John sent out. It goes quite long.
Last time they said, send stuff in advance.
Yes, so anyways, that's all I had to say. And I'm working on a presentation right now for another project, but I wanted to stop in and just say that and also say thank you for being a PUP member. We really appreciate your participation. Is there any questions for me? Okay.
Before you leave, Francisco, just a note to everybody that on our Facebook page, we posted an article in Audubon magazine about the vulture problem and issue, and Stephen is quoted a couple times in it. So if anyone wants to learn more, check out our PUP Facebook page.
I like that Stephen wants to become the vulture king. I like that.
I like that.
Good nickname.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Francisco.
Bye.
Let's start off with the POW here, as we say in interpretation.
Everywhere in the world, many protected area plans pile up unimplemented, yet planners continue to churn out the same kind of plan again and again. It's not a technical or a resource problem. There are many good technical people and resources for planning. It's an idea problem. But changing ideas is very difficult because many people dedicate their reputations, their careers, and their lives to the old idea. Physicist Max Planck suggested that we simply wait for the old idea people to die. But we don't have that time. We need to protect our heritage now, which is why the PUP Consortium does a four-pronged approach. We have a big new idea to make the old idea obsolete. The old idea is basically to treat plans as if they were scientific studies, where the scientists have all the power to change and exclude almost everybody else. The new idea, what we call holistic planning, is to bring all these stakeholders together so they feel ownership for the plan, so they plan continuously, so the plan never goes out of date. But the new idea people are always in the minority, so we need to embrace those people in a democratic grassroots approach. And to convince the old idea people about the new ideas, we're going to have set up model sites where holistic planning is done successfully, do quality research and publishing, and train the new people with the new idea so they don't build their lives on an old idea, and disseminate the new idea through training centers on almost every continent and a global lessons learned center, so that we can have eventually a tipping point, much like a stuck door that suddenly opens. much like when a government declares that its protected areas will be managed through holistic planning, much like when the big guys in the field finally open their door to the new idea. In this wild world where we live, the old idea just doesn't work, which is why we invite you to join the PUP Global Heritage Consortium.
That video is from 2015, so it's actually heritage now of PUP. We need a new one, but until then, welcome to the meeting. I think because you're all new, Aaliyah a little bit less, maybe we'll do a quick introduction and just state your name, where you are, and what role you officially have at PUP. For example, I'm John Cole, I'm the Executive Director, and I'm beaming into you all from Costa Rica. Stephen?
I'm Stephen Aoyemi. I'm a director of the board, and I'm based here in Budapest, Hungary, completing my PhD.
Nice. Aaliyah, what's your name?
What's my name? Aaliyah Arami, and I'm a new advisor, relatively new, and mostly for integral matters. And I'm in Seattle, Washington, USA.
Hey.
Hi, y'all. Good. Hi, my name's Jay McGaffigan. I'm calling to you from just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, the USA. Newly appointed as an advisor, and I have a strong software development background, which is why I think John wanted some of my help.
Definitely needed a techno advisor. John?
Hi, I'm John Babarka. I just joined as an advisor just not too long ago. I'm the director of the Heritage Interpretation Training Center. We offer 44 college-level courses in interpretation. And I also publish Interp News, which is the International Journal of Heritage Interpretation, which we do 6 issues a year, and they're sent out for free. And then we also are running a new climate change resource center where we teach a couple of courses on how to interpret climate change to park and museum visitors, and also have a whole load of free resources that anybody can use, they're PDFs, to help them plan and design and present courses in climate change. So I do a bunch of things.
John is our newest technical service member. So the very origins of PUP can be traced back to 1998, when I was working for a conservation organization called Rare Center for Tropical Conservation. We have a number of people who are descendants from that organization still with us today, including Sherwood on our board of directors. And I was on the north coast of Honduras. I was in charge of the Nature Guide training program and part of the ecotourism development and community development program with Rare. And one day the president of the park, one of the parks that we were working with called Pico Bonito National Park, his name was Fito Steiner, and he's the person in the front row right in front of me in the photograph, and his birthday was 2 days ago. And he said, John, we just got $5,000 from the Angelica Foundation, and we need to develop a public use plan. A public use is like visitor management plan for the park. And we don't know any methodology or consultant. Can you help us find one? And I said, well, you know, we've been partnered now for a couple of years. We can do an informal survey and figure out who might be out there. So we looked at the resources that we had in our office, and we called some of the other people we knew in the field, and we checked the internet. And I think we're all old enough here, maybe not Stephen, to know in 1998, there wasn't much on the internet.
Of course.
Maybe you're older than I think you are, but in any event.
I'm 44.
Oh, yeah, you are. You just look young with your PhD almost in hand. So you probably, you know, too. Anyway, so what we found was not a methodology or consultant that we could recommend to our friends at Pico Bonito National Park. What we found across the Latin American landscape was all kinds of dead and dying plans related to protected areas, economic plans, conservation plans, security plans, visitor use plans. They were just going out there and ending up on shelves, and for large part not being implemented. So I came back to Fito and I said, Fito, unfortunately, there's nothing that we could find that we could recommend to you. But because we work grassroots and we work in ecotourism development, we think even though it's a small amount of money, that we can come up with something at least as good as that which is already out there, hopefully better. So they said, fine. And I broached it to my boss, Brett Jenks, and he said, fine also, but I don't want to see any more plans on shelves. So figure out why plans don't get implemented. So I came back to Fito and said, all right, there's two conditions for us to do this. The first condition is for you guys, that you guys have to write your own plan. Because even then we had this inkling that how consultants were being used was not appropriate for getting plans implemented. So in fact, the entire board of directors, each board member took a piece of the plan and each of them wrote it, and we, PUP, helped put it together. The other condition was for us, a self-imposed condition, that we were going to research why plans weren't getting implemented. Because even back then, we had another inkling that it wasn't simply a lack of resources, like everyone said, what we call the big five: a lack of time, lack of money, lack of information, lack of personnel, and lack of political will. It's always somebody else's problem that causes us to not implement our plans. So we didn't buy that, but we didn't really know what the alternative was. So in 2000 then, this is the brief history you can see on this webpage at the very beginning of the history. In 2000, RARE joined up with UNESCO, the World Heritage Center's Sustainable Tourism Program in Paris, as well as the UN Environmental Program in Nairobi, and the UN Foundation in New York, for a project that was to demonstrate how sustainable tourism could conserve biodiversity in World Heritage sites. So we worked with 4 World Heritage sites in Mesoamerica and 2 in Indonesia. And the little public use planning effort that we started with Pico Bonito suddenly had an infusion of money, and we were able to develop it to a much more sophisticated level. Basically, the idea was to do a participatory process that was also power sharing, where the power to decide and the power to facilitate was in the hands of the local community. And we, as RARE, as the outsiders, our job was to help guide them, to train them and guide them, but not to facilitate the workshops, not to make the decisions, and not to write their plans for them, which is the way most consultants do it these days and have been doing it for 30 years. So we worked, and you can see in this picture here, we worked with 2 very famous parks in Indonesia, with the Komodo National Park of the Komodo dragons and Ujung Kulon National Park, which is on the island of Java, right near Krakatoa, and also the home of the Javanese rhino, one of the most endangered mammals on the planet. And in fact, in those 2 sites, as well as Tikal National Park in Guatemala, the plans were actually written with the community and they were approved nationally. But then when it came time to implement, they looked to RARE, but our money had run out and we closed the door on them and the project. So it was a harsh initial lesson, but that notion of what causes plans to end up on the shelves, that stayed kind of vibrating in me. And I took this program with me from RARE to UNESCO. And that brings us to phase 2. For 6 years, our project became a consultant project attached to the Sustainable Tourism Program of UNESCO. And we got to go all around the world testing this methodology in Vietnam and Montenegro and Macedonia and Belize. There's a picture from Belize right here, in Kenya. So we were tested in these very different cultures. And though in a number of places the plans were actually fully written, decided and approved, such as Vietnam, we had great success. Because the money always came from the top, decided in Paris, there was never actually money for implementation. So we repeated the same mistake over and over again, until we finally realized it was time to try a new approach, that we couldn't just work with UNESCO in this structure. We had to decided to create our own nonprofit, one that could negotiate its own conditions that are more appropriate for implementation. So in 2013, we have phase 3 when we founded the PUP Global Heritage Consortium as a nonprofit, and then eventually became incorporated in the state of Colorado, and then became recognized by the IRS in 2017. So those are the current phases. We're probably actually now in a phase 4, now that we're after our strategic planning and have a whole new vision of where PUP is going to go. So for the moment, that is the brief history of PUP. So I'm going to close that page. And this is some of the results of that strategic planning. I'm not going to go through all of them. You may already have, or you certainly could on your own. But essentially, our mission is that we support communities in the protection of management of natural and cultural heritage through our learning network, which is actually now an action learning network, we call it, and our evolving integral approach and tools. So for those of you who don't know, we've explicitly adopted a holistic approach to understanding not just why plans don't get implemented or do get implemented, but a holistic approach to managing heritage in general, based specifically on integral theory. And I know at least Ali has heard of that. I don't know if anyone else has, but probably now is not the place to talk about that. So our vision is we envision a new era of human thriving through wider, deeper linkages between people and heritage, natural and cultural. And please, there's a few of us here, so if anyone has a question or a comment, stop at any moment. I'm going to try to move at a fairly good pace because there's a lot I want to cover, and maybe some of it you may have already seen in some of the homework, if you will, even though it intimidated Francisco, rightfully so. So we have strategic action plan too that came out of our strategic planning, and not to go into great detail, but it involved looking at increasing PUP membership, creating a learning network, creating a packaging development in integral instruments, our holistic instruments, raising money to have an executive director, and have one funded on the ground UNESCO project going, or UNESCO site, and establish some new partnerships that link us with UNESCO. Some of these things we've made some headway. I think we'll probably turn these over till 2022, especially the fundraising aspect of it. But because we have such a long history working with UNESCO sites, we really wanted to emphasize that aspect. We don't work and have never worked exclusively with UNESCO sites. And when I say site, for those who don't know, it means World Heritage Sites, geoparks, and biosphere reserves principally, although there are other smaller, well, lesser known categories as well out there. So I think is one of the most important things to come out of our strategic planning is our theory of change. So I'm going to try to don't look at it yet. I'm going to launch the presentation mode here in Google. Now you can look at it. So we can skip over the introduction. This is for people who don't have the benefit of an oral presentation. So I'll skip over this. So we're using a tool here to describe called causal loop diagramming. It's a tool used in systems thinking, one aspect of a holistic approach, to try and demonstrate how the different pieces of PUP fit together. So here you can see in the first box, it talks about a toolbox of different kinds of tools. Some of them are interpretation tools, some of them are planning tools, some of them diagnostic tools, and some of them are holistic in design, and others together give you a holistic perspective. So this toolbox would be the basis of our learning community, which is currently we call our membership, but in the future we're going to evolve it into more of a learning network or a community of practice. And this community of practice, the members of PUP, they will find new opportunities for us to work. They'll generate resources through their membership fees and others, and they'll be applying the tools in the field. You can see there's an arrow that skips the learning community. It's because we expect some people who aren't members of PUP to also apply the tools in the field. And those field projects will generate lessons learned, right? And then we will cultivate or harvest those lessons learned and feed them back into what you might call an R&D unit, research and development, to improve our toolbox. So that's our first internal loop to develop the toolbox. And there's some non-PUP members. And the more applications there are, we'll actually be able to have more quality projects, right? If we just had 1 or 2 projects, the chances of quality are much lower. And these will generate those lessons learned that I mentioned and go feedback into our research and development. But also having quality community projects will actually hopefully generate benefits for communities based on that heritage. If we were just doing it to make a toolbox, that wouldn't be a real good reason to have a nonprofit. We actually want to help improve the world and communities. And you can see that green box talks about human thriving indicators, and that comes right from our vision. So we have to identify what indicators for human thriving we're talking about. In any event, if we can demonstrate we're actually improving human thriving, that'll increase the popularity and how well known the PUP is and its integral approach. That'll increase our membership, and you can see it's our membership, and also increase the people who are not members who know about us and feed back into this human thriving development loop. And of course, we'll do some promoting as well to increase that popularity. Every organization does it. And coming out of these projects, hopefully will generate advocates, people who have participated in these projects, who join PUP and who speak highly of PUP. So this is our growth loop as an organization. And I think that was second to last. And some of these high quality projects will then end up being model projects, which will be used to increase application, both the quality and quantity of the application in our toolbox. And last, our popularity. If people see that things are going well, then people are going to, and naturally will create policies to support and promote this kind of work in their own countries, either with our toolbox or similar ideas. And hopefully that will increase applications. So this essentially is our theory of change for how we want to affect the world, the DICE world. For those who don't know, haven't seen our book yet, DICE stands for dynamic, impossible to completely understand, complex, and evolving. Any questions about that? I know that's kind of a lot at once. Hopefully that stepwise approach makes it digestible if you haven't seen it before.
I have a question.
Yeah, John, I shouldn't
One
have.
of those little boxes, which is too small for me to see.
Which
There
one?
it is. Was talking about grants. So you wrote for 3 grants. Did you get any of the grants, or are they still being thought about? And what were the grants for?
I'm not sure I don't remember making a reference to grants.
Well, I mean, in one of the things, one of the little boxes for funding, it talks about applying it. You were applying or had applied for 3 grants. It was on one of your boxes there. And I was just wondering what the grants were that you were applying for.
Still not sure what you're looking at. I don't remember grants
Yeah,
anywhere.
where did I see that? It was with the funding and membership things where you wanted to increase memberships, but you also, there was a little box there that said
Yeah,
you applied for 3 grants.
That is
That was
the action plan.
Oh, early. Okay, the prior document.
Was that the action plan?
Yes.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
just wondering what the grants were, and did you get them?
Well, we didn't. The idea was to do some organizational development grants, and our financial action team, which I'll talk about in a little while, was charged with working on that. But they've had a very slow start this year,
Okay.
so we haven't done that. Sorry, I didn't realize it wasn't in this particular graphic.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. There's too many red boxes for these old eyes to figure out which one it is.
Fair enough. Any other questions on our general theory of change before moving on here?
Well, I have one more question since I'm new to this. Does it work?
We don't know. This is part of our job, is to test our own theory of change.
So this is all theoretical right now, and you're hoping
Yeah.
to find places to see if the theory holds or needs adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I mean, a lot of the relationships, each arrow is a relationship. We can find lots of examples of in the world, but the whole thing together hasn't happened yet.
do you have an actual copy of a plan, or I don't know if you want to call it a plan, or a document for change that has been done that you have as a model? I mean,
I don't think you can
have one of these.
No, I don't think a such thing exists, because to be holistic, it's more about the process than the product. As a matter of fact, in a holistic planning process, the plan becomes far less important than it ever was. It simply is a way to document decisions and how those decisions are generated, and the empowerment that accompanies that decision-making process is really what holistic planning is all about.
But you don't have an example of that actually completed in place yet.
No, not the entire process. And we have lots of pieces of it, but the challenge has been to find the conditions in which that could actually occur. Like I explained in the UNESCO thing, there was opportunity, but the vision wasn't there at the top for UNESCO. And oftentimes most donors don't have that vision. That's been one of the major challenges. Great. It's a good question. Now that's part of the model projects that we want to create. So that holistic planning aspect, it's encapsulated in one of our books here, the Future Has Other Plans, that Steve McCool and some guy named John Cole wrote. It talks a lot about UNESCO and World Heritage examples from all over the world. And integral theory is a theory proposed by philosopher Ken Wilber. It's basically a theory of theories. If you can hear construction noise in my background, I hope you can't, but my apologies. Today just happens to be the day when they're deconstructing our kitchen with a jackhammer.
You mean meat tenderizer?
If the floor were meat, then that's what it is. So that integral theory is a theory of all theories. I like to think of it as bookshelves where every other theory and approach has a place somewhere on those bookshelves, and that they all fit together. One important aspect of it is transdisciplinary, and that's where people from all different fields come together, kind of put their own individual fields behind them, and work together on a common problem without referencing their particular fields. And that's kind of a lot what PUP is like, is we have people from anthropology, interpretation, and park planning, social sciences and natural sciences, and we, to the degree possible, integrate those together to come up with this new model. We also have a long history of research and self-learning that goes right back to the very beginning of PUP when it was still with RARE. And you can see this on our page, a number of different historical aspects of learning and self-reflection, which feeds right into the theory of change that I just showed you. It has a whole feedback learning and learning loops. So that's an important part of our culture. And also, when I mentioned the toolbox, the idea of tool making also goes right back to the very beginning of PUP. And you can see on this page, you don't have to read them, but there's a list of a lot of different tools that have been developed under PUP and RARE and UNESCO throughout its 3 phases. So this notion of developing a toolbox, which Aaliyah is on the toolbox committee and Jay is an advisor for the technological side of the toolbox. You can see how this fits right into our history. It's part of our own organizational culture. So there are 3 main areas, although I think they're evolving. There's the public use planning part of itself, and that's here. We never actually kind of developed this part of the website. We need to redesign our website, but the public use planning part of it, how do we help sites do better conservation planning, do better general management planning, and implement those plans as well in a holistic way. Then there's our interpretation component, brochure here of our interpretation development program, which is one of our strongest components since it goes all the way back to 1997 and has produced a number of different methodologies and books specifically designed for community and park development in developing countries, although some of our work also is in developed countries as well. I guess John has much more experience in developed countries, although you've done in both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this brochure, which is now a little bit outdated, gives an idea of our interpretation development program. And of course, our tool making and our is probably the third big area right now, where we've done a number of different, I think I have a page for that too. Too many pages open. I'll get back to that, I guess not. But we've done a number of different kinds of research and tool making. I think I did show you that page. So now I want to change direction to talk a little bit about our structure and our membership, a little bit of the internal operations. Now, after we left UNESCO, we decided to be a membership organization because without UNESCO, without the prestige that UNESCO had to open doors in a world that didn't believe much in holistic planning, much rather a top-down technological scientific planning, which is still the dominant paradigm in the world, we needed some other way to open doors. So we figured if we had a membership organization with a lot of voices, some of which are well known, together we could attract more attention and respect and open some of those doors to help us make inroads into the dominant paradigm. So that was the original reason for becoming a membership organization. The second reason now is it's actually our principal source of funding as well through membership. So, or at least for those of you who pay membership, which isn't most of you. So that's, and in the membership, there's a number of different membership categories, as you probably already know. You have the directors, like Stephen, advisors, Aaliyah and Jay, get country representatives, technical service members, like John. We have general members. And general members are people kind of like, you know, TN, the Nature Conservancy has 1 million members. They don't do anything but pay dues and receive the magazine, but they support the cause. So we have a certain percentage of general members and student members who are to support the cause, or maybe they're here for networking. And we have a small staff as well, paid through commissions, not through salaries. So that's our, and I can have you a nice picture of our board here, I mean our organization. You may have already seen this, because I just sent it to the executive mailing list, and I think you're all on the executive. Well, John isn't because of technical service member or not, but I think I sent it to the whole membership actually. So anyway, you can basically see, and we put the board of directors, even though it's in the middle, we try not to make a hierarchical diagram. It's more of a concentric diagram. So, I mean, I don't know if there's anyone have a question about that. You're all there though. Here's Jay, and here's Aaliyah, and
Well, I have a question since I do
here's John.
marketing and stuff. The question is, if I'm telling people about PUP and it's something that they had to think about joining, what do they get when they join? What do they get? So if I paid $50 or $25 and I join PUP, they're going to ask me, okay, what do I get? So what do you get for? Because I don't know. What do you get for being a member? What's the?
Well, there's a
Besides feeling good.
Well, actually, feeling good is the most important thing. Survey after survey show for nonprofit organizations. The newsletter is not important generally.
No.
We do have a benefits table that's in the membership section. I think it's being updated by our membership action team. But it depends on your level, of course, under benefits. They've taken the table out and they're about to put the new one in. But there's networking, there is the feel good, there is the information, there is the opportunity for technical service members. They join for the possibility of participating in projects lucratively. There is the supporting of the mission, which would be what directors and advisors are usually attracted to. Student members are usually attracted to the networking possibilities. General members for the cause. The country representative is to represent their country and also be the spearhead for projects. There's discounts on courses and webinars when we offer them. You can print out your membership card. We do hope to do merchandising in the future. And there's a number of other benefits that don't come to me right off the top of my head. But it's largely the cause, the networking, and for those who want to be lucratively involved in a project, that as well. Reason
I was asking that is within the last week, I probably got 12 membership renewals too, the Conservation Fund, World Wildlife Fund. I mean, they come in big stacks. So
Sure.
yeah. So, and they send you address labels, and you get a postcard. I mean, and they want you to rejoin the World Wildlife Fund,
Of course
or
they
they
do.
want you to rejoin whatever. And so there's a very competitive market out there for
Yep.
people to join, and a lot of people don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of joining money. And so if you're looking at all the really worthwhile, well-known organizations that are membership driven, and they can list all the things that they do, I would think PUP would have to be competitive with all the other ones, since a person might have $25 or $30, you know, to be a member of something once, but they're probably not going to join 9 of them.
Nope.
You know,
That
so
would be pretty
it's
amazing.
just kind of thinking about, you know, the feel-good benefits are important. World Wildlife Fund did a real good video that they sent out to all their members to rejoin, which was amazing and expensive. But I'm just thinking that, because I talk to a lot of people, and I talk about, you know, how we're being involved with PUP, and they say, okay, what? So I give them the website, and they kind of know what you do, what projects have you done so far, you know, what kind of magazine, do you have a newsletter? And so they keep asking me, and I mentioned they would ask all of you too.
Yeah, no, we definitely need to work more in that. We're trying to get our communications action team more active. There's a number of people on it, but
especially over Christmas, because that's the time of giving.
yeah, actually, Giving Tuesday is tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah. So you're a day late, maybe, I don't know, but
Well,
Giving Tuesday should be a PUP membership.
We're a few years late in that department. You know, most of our membership comes through personal contacts, not through mass mailing at the moment. We do have a few people who show up out of the blue, and we just had a student member. Actually, that wasn't because her advisor just met Francisco in a conference in New Mexico a couple weeks ago. So that's why we have about 80 members, and almost all of them are through personal contacts.
Oh, wonderful.
We do need to take that jump, though, to a more sophisticated marketing, which we're well aware of, so that we can generate much larger numbers of people that we don't know.
Yeah.
So
well,
we're getting
internationally as well. I mean, you're an international organization.
Well, we've got actually a very international membership. Our board and advisors isn't too international, admittedly, but they come and go. We've had quite a number, but our membership is, especially in Latin America, we're particularly strong because of the work that we do there in Spanish. Another document about, but it's an important point. You're absolutely right, John, and we're not moving as fast as we would like to in that area. This is our history of our board of directors. You can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're in our 6th crop of directors, the 6th class, I guess, if you will, or the 6th cohort. I'm not sure how to call that. And you can find this as well. And then it also has our officers and our list of advisors as well. It's just another reference document to give you an idea of our evolution and where people have joined in. But I don't think we need to spend too much time looking at that or the org chart. Funny you mentioned that, John, because the membership benefits was the very next thing on the list after the org chart. So your timing was pretty good. So another thing, this is especially true for Steve in this next section, because we originally created this onboarding as part of our board development process. And but I think everybody can benefit a little bit, is what is the vision of a board for our board in particular in a nonprofit? And Stephen, I mean, we do use the American model, and I don't know how familiar you are with that. I know a lot of people who aren't from the United States find some of it quite intriguing, but for example, board members are the legal owners of this corporation. They are legally responsible for the revenue and the governance. Unlike advisors, like Aaliyah and Jay have no legal obligation or financial obligation to the organization. So our insurance doesn't cover them. But don't worry, Stephen, we have insurance that covers our board and our officers, because in theory, we can be sued. Hard to imagine that an organization like us would be in a situation like that, but you never know. And it's actually a requirement for some kind of government contracts. Another thing is that the directors, you represent yourself, Stephen. You don't represent any other organization. You don't represent your university or any nonprofit in Nigeria. We have no seats on our board to represent a particular organization or a government institution, like many boards do have, but we don't have that, at least not at this time. We have the board members and our staff right now, since we have, what I'm trying to say is we have no paid staff, salaried staff. What we have is commission-based for some of the administrative functions, the newsletter editor, the website, our secretary of the board, they all receive commission-based, but no salaries because we don't have enough money for that yet. And that does mean there's more responsibility for the board to be activists, to be involved in generating opportunities that in other larger nonprofits, their staff would be positioned to do. So some people call it a working board. Because what a working board is each organization defines that. But some boards, they just meet 2 or 3 times a year and they develop policy and that's it, which might be fine for a large organization like the World Wildlife Fund. But in our case, as you know, we have monthly board meetings and there's greater level of involvement, which means we have to be much more careful with time commitment than a traditional board. So, you know, we have a board chair and that's Francisco, and for him it was Sherwood. You're probably already picking up, some of you, the culture of our organization. It's very horizontal. It's frugal. It's highly participatory and highly transparent. Any member can come to a board meeting most of the time. Most of our documents are available for anyone. Matter of fact, most of them have to be by law in any event. But we try to practice what we preach in terms of development and participation and power sharing. So I do want to make it clear, though, Stephen, when I say that it's a working board, we don't expect board members to do any of the administrative work. You know, once it goes from setting up a system to running the system, then it's handed over to somebody else for the most part. So we do have as board members doing different projects sometimes. Like Trace right now is trying to set up our big conference that we're going to have here in Costa Rica next June. Francisco's also working with her on that. Shanti is working on helping develop, working with Jay and I on developing the relational database, the central tool, and also with Aliyah for the toolbox. And Sherwood in different moments has done other things. He's led fundraising effort and strategic planning efforts in the past since he's a professional facilitator. So, but those are things that board directors choose to do on their own. There's no obligation to run a campaign or anything like that. It's what's in their interest and their skills, when their skill sets. But we do want to have high standards for success. A lot of nonprofits, at the beginning especially, will take on directors just because of their name. They'll take on directors because they're interested in just anybody who will join so they can have heads. And oftentimes that generates apathy. And it generates board members who maybe not show up at all the meetings or don't want to make any financial contribution. And that's called a low quality board. Just because we're volunteers doesn't mean we can just endow the organization with our presence and our name. That's not enough. So we've had board directors roll off the board once they realize that that was the expectation. You know, that we work as a team and people don't sit on the sideline and just watch. Hopefully we made that clear already. But of course, at the same time, respecting people's time. Everyone has many other things to do. They're all professionals or very busy retirees in 1 or 2 cases. As you already know, we have monthly board meetings. Attendance is mandatory. Of course, we're allowed a couple different absences a year. You know, there are acts of God and we all recognize that. We try to schedule the dates in advance. We're about to announce next year's dates, but it follows a formula. It's the second Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern every month. So it's not much excuse for people not knowing when the meetings were going to be. The board meeting cycle, again, you've already begun to experience it, Steve. Stephen, you receive materials, a board packet, hopefully a week in advance to review it. The system has an automatic one-click registration. We need this this registration so we know if we have quorum for the meeting. There's an automatic reminder system. It sends out a 1 week, 1 day, and the same minute reminder. So people know when the board meeting is. You've all experienced that already with just this meeting, this onboard meeting. We use the same system. The minutes go out 1 week after the meeting, ideally, through our system. And we do have e-voting, which I think you already participated in an e-vote, right? And the results of which go into the monthly minutes, the month that they were taken in. So e-votes help to reduce the amount of busy work in meetings so we can have more time for discussion. Very important document is the board agreement document, but you've already seen that. I don't know if you have any questions that are still out. Since you signed it, it's a little late, but never hurts to clarify even after one has signed it. So because this onboarding was originally designed for directors, I always like to give an opportunity for any new directors to ask questions about anything in the board agreement doc, which we warmly call the BAD.
I can't remember particularly what that document was, but I think everything I signed during that period, I was okay with it. I didn't have any problems.
Great.
Yeah.
If you forget the things that you sign, we're going to have you sign a lot more things. So directors and advisors are all required to serve on at least one action team. And I'll talk about those different action teams in a moment. And actually, I didn't bring up the list of action teams. I should do that, but actually that's coming up. So that's a little bit about the board role. Clark's not here right now. I didn't ask him to be here, but for the, for our finance section, and we have all our annual reports and our one biannual report on our website. So you can find them, and the budgets are at the end. And we are a very low budget organization at the moment, something that we're hoping to change. We have a number of fairly large initiatives planned, including a very large project that Trace is helping to organize in Chile, a multi-year program, which we're part of a very large consortium to build a research center on the very southern tip of Patagonia. So that's an interesting opportunity, as well as this toolbox, which is our investment, PUP's big investment for the future, as well as our membership. We charge overhead on projects. We do get some donations. The board makes a donation, each board member each year. Not a lot, but it's between 50 and 500 is the recommended. Of course, you can go beyond that if you're rolling in dough, which nobody is. Yeah, and sometimes courses and merchandising, not much merchandising, but sometimes courses we make some money on, and well, we used to make money on webinars before the pandemic, but now there's so many webinars out there that it's not that lucrative an approach. But you're welcome to look at the financial document with more detail. And if somebody else wants to see other financial documents, we can get them off of our file server. So anyway, that's that. And that's good to see that you can see the kind of projects we're working on by looking at those members. And I mean those. Another thing that you probably all have seen already is our monthly project matrix. So this is a good example of organization trying to be very transparent. Everything that we're working on goes into this Excel sheet, and it's updated monthly. And when I don't forget, it's distributed to the membership after the board meeting every month. But even if I do forget, it's always in the same location in the file server. Since I send a link, people can find it. But essentially, you can see the projects that we're working on. Some of them are internal development and some of them are external. What is the status of the project? What region of the world, if it has a geographic orientation? Who is the donor or client? Who is the project lead, the support, and notes and status? You see that some of it's written in red. That means those are updates from last month. So you can very quickly find the monthly updates. And of course, this goes back all the way to the beginning of PUP. You can see all the years underneath here. So this is a very succinct history of PUP's projects. Any questions on that? I wanted, before next, I was going to move to our communication channels. Now, how does PUP communicate and what tools does it use? I don't have an image for that, so I'll just share that with you. Essentially then, especially for the board and advisors, our email is a formal communication mechanism because it's considered most reliable and documented. So when we want to send out a formal, even more formal is to have it sent through our official Wild Apricot system. You all recognize the formal looking emails. And then there's the listservs that we have as well, which we use. And Jay, Steve, and Ali are on the executive listserv. And everybody who received this board meeting announcement that came through our formal system. We have a system called Wild Apricot, which is a software system. And it's made for nonprofits. So it brings together many of the essential nonprofit functions: website, membership management, event management, donating, donations. We collect payments through it. Doesn't do everything, but it does an awful lot. And it generates reports for us. Our membership directory is all under that one roof. So when I say Wild Apricot, or when we say it, I mean, that's referring to our online software for membership management. We have a WhatsApp group for our executive team. Not everybody is on it. Not everybody uses WhatsApp or refuses to use it, which is understandable. So that means WhatsApp is not an official channel. It's just for updates and things. Jay, if you change your mind, you're welcome to join the WhatsApp, but it's not a requirement for anybody. Oh, Leah, you're on it. Oh, you have.
I have to go now. I put that in the chat a few minutes ago.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm sorry to miss it. This is so excellent, really excellent. I'm glad I'm going through it again, and I will go through it yet again the next time because I'm learning more each time, and I just think it's all so admirably put together.
I really appreciate, the fact that you signed up for your second onboarding session. I was like, was she there the first time? But it was you who helped make the suggestion that there should be, you and Shanti both, to make homework reading prior to the meeting, I believe. So I remembered, yeah, you were here the first time.
Well, it's just so rich that I can only absorb so much at
No,
one
it's a lot.
time. So yeah, so I got different things from this one, and I'm just appreciating PUP and everyone, and look forward to going forward together.
Thanks very much. And I hope to see you at the next
Thanks.
toolbox meeting
Yes.
early next month.
Yes.
Thank you so
Okay.
much for coming.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 All right. Now it's a men's only group. We'll see if that
So we
changes
can
my
smoke
agenda.
and drink bourbon if we want to.
Something like that, yeah. And climb the mountain here in my background.
There we go.
So we also have listservs for different groups. We have listservs for all of our non-general members, listservs for just the board and the executive group, which includes advisors and directors. And Steve and Jay, you can all post to that listserv because your emails are registered to it. So that's one thing we can't do with Wild Apricot. Wild Apricot is just one direction, while the listservs can be for conversation. Staff members can get at pupconsortium.net email addresses. Anybody could if they have a reason to do it. Most of them don't, unless they're functions like the webmaster or the newsletter editor or me. I'm the only staff person who has a PUP consortium. I think the secretary does too. We have our monthly project matrix, which is still up there on the board. You saw that already. That's another important way to communicate. We have quarterly financial reports. Because we don't have a lot of cash flow, we don't have staff, we don't have almost any overhead being a virtual organization. We don't need to have monthly or bi-monthly financial reports. So we do quarterly and end of year reports, as you see in the annual report. We have PUP dates, which is our clever term for press releases. And Jay, you were just in the most recent one, hopefully. Well, it's on our website, and our press release person hasn't submitted it yet to the membership because I don't think she's learned how to do that yet. But that'll be out soon. So it's a welcome Jay and a welcome Stephen. Actually, I think you're both the topic of the most recent press release. But if you're really anxious to see it, either go to the website or go to our, I'm not even sure it's on the Facebook feed. I'm still training her how to use our media. Anyway, we have our PUP Notes, which is our newsletter, which she's also going to start doing because our most recent newsletter editor finished his 1-year commitment and left, and we haven't replaced him yet completely. We have our website, we have our Facebook page, a YouTube channel, and a LinkedIn channel or LinkedIn page, which we don't use much. So those are our external communication tools. So in terms of action teams, and this is kind of important too. Actually, I can drop this right in here. Action teams are sort of like board committees, except that these are board committees that can be populated by all members of the organization, not just board members. So we call them action teams rather than board committees. And why am I having trouble launching this? Yeah, put it up here instead. Here we go. No, that's the wrong link. Anyway, I can say what they are. I need to fix that link in my notes. So we have several different action teams, some more active than others. We have the Integral Toolbox action team, which right now is the most active. Jay, you're now on that too, for obvious reasons. This is the one that's focused on building our, not just a relational database, because that's the central tool of the platform of the toolbox, but the toolbox is much greater than that. There's the Learning Network action team, which right now is working with the Integral Toolbox because it's such a big project and it's foundational. The folks, those two action teams are working together. We have a financial action team, which I think, Stephen, you signed up for, you and Francisco, so that needs to get going. Last year, one of the principal members, a previous board member, Brian, came down with cancer and he kind of wasn't able to participate. So the financial action team didn't actually get to going this year, I should say. So hopefully we'll get a reset for that. So we have that. We have a communications action team, which has 4 or 5 good people, but nobody who wants to be the coordinator. So that's a little slow in movement, organizing the meetings and the agenda. So we still need to find that person. We have a membership action team, which has been working on the new membership benefits table and also a survey. I think it's gone out to the membership already. I'm not sure. Asking people, both current members and past members, their perception of PUP, why they joined and why they left if they have left and didn't renew. So it's a little bit like what you're saying, John. We have to do the research before we can have good promotion, membership promotion and retention. And it's a really good survey. But there's only 2 people on that, so it's moving at its own pace. And we have the membership, the communication, and the newest one is the Latin American Interpretation Action Team. This one isn't fully formed yet, but this is an interesting one because it's through an alliance with PUP, the Mexican Association of Heritage Interpreters, and the Colegio de Michoacán, which is a postgraduate university in Mexico. And this group is going to undertake a Latin American-wide assessment of what's been done in interpretation and where are the holes. It's kind of a gap analysis. And this will help identify where the field needs to invest throughout Latin America. This is the follow-up project on the first Latin American Congress of Heritage Interpretation that we organized in 2018, which was the largest interpretation event ever in the history of Latin America by far. So we're hoping this one is of equal proportion in size and reach. So that's the purpose of that action team. That'll be completely in Spanish. So if anybody wants to practice Spanish, they can join that team. So anyway, all members are eligible to participate and directors and advisors are required to be on one at least. John, you could join one if you elected, but that's not an expectation or a requirement as a technical service member. Any questions about the action teams? They typically, in theory, they meet once a month. And they report to the board what they're doing. And then the board delegates things to those action teams. At least that's how it's supposed to work. Kind of like a board committee, but more horizontal. The communications action team, for example, doesn't even have a board director on it, or the membership action team. as long as there's good people on it to run it. That's what's important. The last thing I want to do is take you in a little bit of a tour through the file server, and I'd actually like you all to do this on your own computers. If I can find this bar that's Zoom has blocks my view. Okay, so if you can go to our website, and then you go to About, and you hit PUP File Server. I don't know why it didn't load completely. Suddenly it was loading just a little while ago. Why is it not loading? How embarrassing. I think it's my computer though.
Mine has shown the three
You
file
can see all,
servers.
you can see all three of them? Okay, good.
Yeah, I can see all three.
So this page is publicly accessible. So anybody who's not a PUP member can come to this PUP page, click on the general public access, and that'll bring them to a portion of our Google Drive that has information that we think is generally appropriate for the general public, brochures and things like that. And the middle one, if I remember, is members only, and the bottom one is leadership.
Yeah,
Now, in
PUP
order
leadership.
Now, in order to access leadership or members only, you need to be signed in. And actually, I don't even think I am signed in. So I'm going to sign in here. Maybe that's why it doesn't show up, is because I'm not signed in. I think that's why, actually. I'm now signed in. There we go. See, that's what it was. If you don't have access privileges, then those bottom two don't show up. So I accidentally demonstrated how it's security privilege controlled. So for Jay and Stephen, you'd click on the leadership. And I would give you a brief tour. And now this is our leadership folder. And you have access to the terms of reference and contracts, strategic planning, official documents, logos, our database of, past letters going back to a long time ago. Insurance information, board related stuff that might be of more interest, in recruitment and orientation and other kinds of stuff. I mean, you probably won't need to go through this very often, but you might for some reason, if you're curious. Advisor related, we have interview reports and applications. We used to have advisor meetings, but 6-month meetings. I don't know, the advisors haven't been too thrilled about starting that up again. And our policy manual here, and some other outdated documents. So this, you both have all access to. If you go to the top level, which I don't think you have all access to, we have our webinars coordinator has information in our webinars folder. This is not publicly accessible information. We used to have the only webinar series and interpretation in Spanish. But again, the pandemic did a lot of damage to that because we used to charge for that. The members only thing, which I mentioned to you already. The project matrices can always be found in members only, official documents, membership information. We don't need CVs anymore because now we ask people to upload the CVs to their profile. And if they don't want to, then that's the way it goes. Our PUP manual. For public use planning, the board of directors history, which you already saw. This stuff's always constantly being updated. General public, the financial document only myself and the treasurer have access to. Nonetheless, you have the right to request any document that's in it by Colorado law, but we just don't want people rummaging through our financial folder. So if there's anything you need to see, I'm more than happy to supply it. Tax forms and treasury reports and invoices and budget documents and auditing, all kinds of fun stuff like that. And then there's the action team folder. So if you're on an action team, you're given obviously access to your corresponding folder, whether it's Latin American interpretation, membership, the toolbox, financial action team, communication, and then the action learning network. Oh, and this is what I wanted to show you. And these are the membership on the different action teams. So integral toolbox, I need to add J McGaffigan, hasn't been updated. And the fundraising, Stephen, you're already here. And the learning network and the communications and the membership.
I can't find where you're talking about.
Oh, it's because you don't have access to this.
Oh, okay.
You can have access to the spreadsheet, but not to the folder because it's the top level of the action teams.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But you would certainly have access to your action team.
Where, how do I access the action teams? Where is it? Is it under members only?
No, you get a separate link, like right here.
Oh, okay.
This is actually, I don't remember your email address. So, what's your email address really quickly?
What?
Your email address really quickly?
Oh, SAWOYEMI @gmail.com.
Okay. So you will now have editing access. Oh, you appeared. Somehow it knows you already. All right, so now you have editing access to that folder, although I don't think there's much in it yet. No, there's not much in it. You're not missing anything.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, that's just a brief tour of the file server that we have. We don't keep paper documents. We don't even have an office to keep them in. If we did, it's so old-fashioned. So this is our interpretation of Colorado law and file server requirements. And with that, this meeting started at 1:30, 2:30. So we had 15 more minutes left, and I wanted to allow anyone to have questions or comments about the operations or communication or the vision or any of the topics that we come up with. And also any suggestions you have that you think would make this meeting better in an hour and a half. I keep a record of the suggestions as we go. So let me stop sharing so we can see each other better. And if you have any thoughts?
Well, I do have thoughts to try to help build memberships. And as you know, I publish in Terp News. It goes to 200,000 people in 60 countries.
Yeah.
Museums, parks, zoos, nature centers all over. And I'd be happy to place a free advertisement for PUP membership in it. And it would go to all those people, and maybe it'll generate a few more members or a few more hits on your website, because it doesn't cost me anything, won't cost you anything. If you send it out and see what happens. We do have the list with the courses that I discounted for PUP members. And if you'd like to have a library, a free library access to a lot of my textbooks, I can send you those books as PDFs. And if somebody wants to borrow one, you can just send them a copy of that book on exhibits or whatever. And likewise, the whole library on climate change.
You actually have a borrow system, or do you mean that figuratively?
No, yeah, I send you a master copy, PDF, and if somebody says, Julia, I'd like to read the textbook on interpretive planning, you just send it to them.
Okay, well, is that public? I mean, if it's publicly available, we could publish the link too.
Oh yeah, well yeah, they're all listed on my website page.
Okay.
But that way they'd have access to that if they wanted it, no cost. And likewise for all the climate change issues. Anybody working on climate change, I just finished one on rainforest. So all those are available to members for free. Right. And so I'm happy to help, with some of the marketing and whatever to at least get the word out about you in a way that won't cost you anything.
We need to produce.
It may overload your server, but who knows? I bet. So in other words, you give me a half page JPEG ready to go with websites and who you are and all the links, and I'll pop that in the next issue that goes out and see what happens.
Well, we're recruiting for a new membership experience manager now because the other one became our secretary. So we don't really have anybody in charge of that at the moment. But
Well, I can just at least get them to your website.
Yeah, that'd be nice to have like an artwork that actually
Yeah.
is persuasive.
Oh
I think
yeah, I
that's
mean,
what we need.
yeah, you have a photograph or one of your books could be in the piece. I mean, you know, you can't sell from an empty cart.
I would say as soon as they get the new membership benefits table up on the website, that would be a good time. And
Yeah,
I did want to send you, John, I don't know if Ellen talked to you because you very kindly offered a discount on all your courses, and we haven't published that yet because that gave us the idea that we should actually have a member services page.
Oh.
And we were going to make that the first thing to go up there
good.
because other members offer services too, or editing or translating or what having. And you know,
It's a benefit. So, I mean, you need to, I mean, if they have access as a member to like all the climate change resources, no charge to them, or maybe you might put a charge for handling. I mean, I'll leave it up to you. But we can share with you tons and tons and tons of stuff, to a library of articles, you know, just tons of stuff that you can use to create your members' benefits package.
Okay, part of it, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So I'm here to help. I'm not the government.
Either way, we're non-governmental.
That's right. There we go. There we go. So, and you did a good job with going through everything and keeping it on time. So congratulations with time management as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you. If you do have any of you suggestions on, I mean, making this more interactive, which is hard because there's a lot that I wanted to go through.
I just need bigger print.
John, I think this was very comprehensive. Wow, I learned a lot. But Alia, is that her name?
Aliyah.
Alia.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll need to go through this again. Just because it's still all fresh to me. And of course, I'll be going to the website as well to kind of learn more issues. I'm kind of used to startups in a way, in terms of those organizations that are just starting, kind of putting so much energy. I'm used to that kind of thing. So I see myself playing a very good role here. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward because since I was, last time we really had contact with Africa as an organization was in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're working with Fort Jesus in Mombasa, which is a World Heritage Site, is of Portuguese origin. So we were connected with the network of Portuguese origin World Heritage Sites at UNESCO at one point. But since then, we never completed that project, unfortunately. So it'd be great to reconnect.
Absolutely.
I think I was going to say something else too. Now I forgot what. Oh yeah, well, we have these onboarding sessions when we have like two new people in kind of the leadership area. And I'm recording this, and unless anyone has a major issue, then I'm going to put it on our YouTube channel. I can put it as unlisted if somebody is concerned with their privacy, but we will use this as a tool in between onboarding sessions, right?
Oh, okay.
For people that, you know, either they're not in the executive circle, but they want to learn about PUP, or we get a director on, but we're waiting for an advisor and it might be another month or two, because since I can't do these every month.
I think that makes sense. That makes sense.
Totally.
This is our first recorded one. This is a suggestion from last time too. So, alrighty.
I think it was good.
Jay, nothing else on the tip of your tongue? Awesome.
No questions.
Great.
Everything was good. It was useful. The read, you know, the materials you sent out ahead of time to read really helped too.
Oh, great. I'm glad you got a chance to look at some of them.
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome. Well, they'll still be useful, and the important ones, you'll still be getting messages every now and then. I try not to send too many messages to the membership with too much frequency, but so people don't get overloaded.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, then I think we can finish 5 minutes early.
Hey.
Excellent.
Awesome.
That doesn't happen very often.
Thanks everybody. Nice to meet you all.
No,
Bye.
thank you.
Nice to meet you. Bye all.
Bye-bye.